Welcome again to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. Wow, wow, wow. Do I ever have stories? I don't even know if it's a story, stories to tell. So, again, thank you all for listening. Before we get it cracking and really get into it, thank you for listening. The podcast is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We do it on YouTube, but pretty amazing story I got to share with you. I have to get it out. I am finally back in the home booth. We'll call this booth. This is downstairs. This is booth B. Studio upstairs. That is booth A. But we back in it. We finally home. And do I have stories to just share about the latest concert experience? We didn't even get into the Ghostface, and we'll touch on that one. That happened a couple of weeks ago, but we really have to talk about the show of all shows this year, um, otherwise known as the Legends of Hip Hop, the 50th anniversary. This was a roadie. Yes, we hit the streets, we hit the road, down the 401, crossed the border, and we went to Windsor, crossed the border, and we ended up in Detroit. So yes, this show was in Detroit, Michigan, in the United States of America. So shout out to all of my US listeners. Yeah, this one was crazy. This one was there were so many ups and downs. So let me tell the story, and hopefully I won't drag this out too long. But y'all know I love a good story. Don't necessarily be the one that tells it, but I love to hear it. So here we go. So saw that this show was happening probably 2.5 months ago, and incredibly excited when I heard the lineup. So if you don't know the lineup for this show, you probably missed out. Well, if you weren't there, you definitely missed out, and you're gonna have to regroup. There is an amazing show that may top this one. I am definitely not seeing it. It just doesn't align with my work, but it is on the birthday of hip hop, number 50. It is in Yankee Stadium. Headlining is none other than um, the legendary group Run DMC. There is a lineup upon lineups. I don't even know how they're going to get these MCs in. I think they're starting at like 9 a.m. to get this all done because there's so many people on the bill. And I don't know how many songs they'll do, but they're on the bill. This was a little more compact. This was a vibe. This could have been a show times six. Um, but let me give you the rundown. And the lineup is unbelievable when we talk about the legends of hip hop. We have the human beatbox, Dougie Fresh, his partner, his partner, Slick Rick. Then we have Krs-One. Throw on top of that the legendary, the best duo, in my opinion, in the history of hip hop, EPMD. They started it all. They made being a duo cool. They took it to a whole new level. Then we got the god of swag, the one of the most influential MCs of all time, Big Daddy Kane. And we said we had Krs-One, the teacher, and then you have to layer in the god MC himself, Rakim. So KRS, Rakim, Kane, Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and the legendary duo EPMD. 7 incredible MCs. Now, I think Dougie Fresh is more a performer than an MC, but needless to say, it was a lineup upon lineup. I think the only lineup that I ever recall seeing that rivals this is 2008 Rock the Bells that headlined it. Red and Meth. We had De La Soul, Mos Def, when he was called Mos Def, Nas, and we had Krs-One was the host, Rakim, and then the top of the food chain was A Tribe Called Quest. So, because we hadn't seen them perform in years, so that's the only show I would say in my books that would rival this one. So let's crack it. Let's get it cracking into the story. So, I have some connections in the world, and then we'll get into all the details just to not brag or blow up the spot, but there was a potential opportunity to meet one of the artists, Eric Sermon. And, I would tell you that the timelines and logistics of the trip got confusing slash choppy because I was on a work trip literally the day before. I had landed in Toronto at like midnight. I was supposed to be back on the road at like 8 or 9 o'clock to get to Detroit. Things didn't work out the way that it was supposed to. I was a little under the weather. One of the passengers didn't want to travel with me. So that's cool. We're not going to get into all of that. But the rest of the crew was good that I rolled out. But I didn't go home. There was just too many logistical issues, including that there was a storm in Chicago, which is the connecting flight on my way back from my work trip, that really played an impact. We were in a lockdown for like 2 hours. It wasn't incredibly scary. There was a tornado and a lightning warning, and obviously with that type of conditions, you can't fly a plane. Did not get back to Toronto until at 3 a.m. And with that led to having staying close to where I had to roll out. And, finally, after working through some things, got on the road, headed down the 401, connected with my peeps in just outside London. We crossed the border, but we're tight for time. The border line is long. So there's just is it going to happen? Am I actually going to get there? What is going to happen with everything that's happening with this show? But we crossed the border. We get across the border. We quickly get settled up at the hotel. Now, with all the scramble and the logistical times and all the things I didn't even get to go home. I just roll with what I already had. And one of those things is that I literally had a bag mentally packed 2 months prior. Like the day I heard about the show, we're going to Detroit. Where's all my Detroit stuff? So I had a Dilla shirt. I had Michigan Wolverine and Lion stuff. I just love sports and hip hop. So I had my gear set. I had a Kane shirt for one point of the show. I had an EPMD hat. I'm wearing actually a Death Squad hat, which I'm actually wearing. Did not to get to wear any of it. I had to go with like Plan B. And I'm just happy that I actually got across the board. And I had a Rakim shirt ready to rock, paid in full. This was going to be crazy. And I just didn't get to do all that pre-work I did went out the window. And it was easy to say, I'm just not going. I almost tapped out multiple times mentally. But I really believe that this was a show that I had to see. And I felt well. And I felt mentally in a place that I should see this show and I should just do my thing. The energy that this show would bring me, the euphoria that would this would be something that I maybe regret for the rest of my life if I never saw the show. So I did my thing. I went out and I got connected with my peeps. So Renee and Jay, thank you for getting there. Tawny and Kevin, thank you for getting me back. I drove like half the way, but had to carpool with some of these people to make it happen. But this was the crew. So we'll see 6, ended up being 5. We still made it happen. Wish it was 6. It would have given us a different element that we didn't have. So, but we had to move on. So I did finally make it to Detroit at Fox Theater, the legendary Fox Theater, 6 o'clock. But time is ticking. Barely have any time to just get something in and eat. But then, shows like this, they start on time. They definitely start on time. So we got in there, we got seated, we saw the merch, we saw our friend Alana, special shout out to Alana, set up a whole bunch of stuff with Souls and Vicious when they were here. We'll get into my rankings of my favorite concerts because I'm already at double digits. It's unbelievable how this year has gone already. Definitely see a slowdown, but we'll have to wait and see what gets put on the books. So we get in the show, we get settled, we're in our seats now. Hey, I have this connection, and I'm hoping that I get a chance to connect with Eric Sherman. I've been texting actually with Eric's sister, her manager Kim is amazing. She was so nice and so accommodating. Unfortunately, things did not work out. Sadly, I am blessed. I feel great about my experience at the show. And I think even at times, and EPMD, so I'll give you the order that they came out. First, it was EPMD. Then it was Big Daddy Kane. Then it was KRS. Then it was Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. Dougie Fresh technically came out first. Slick Rick did majority of his songs. Dougie Fresh took it back. Little Vicious came out, which was dope. And if you don't know the song that they do together, it was wild. It was definitely a vibe. It was definitely a Caribbean vibe, which I love, which was great. Dougie Fresh wrapped up with some crazy beatbox, and then we got to the God MC Rakim to wrap it up. So here we are, hoping to connect with them. I didn't have my Death Squad hat. I'm sure that may have played a factor why things didn't go down the way. But hey, the show was great. We had amazing. I didn't even realize how great the seats were. We were like 14 rows from the front. We were not even in the back third. We were in the front third. And there was room to stand up and room to me to do my thing and talk these lyrics. And I had such an amazing time of how it went down. So, you know, they started off actually with the DJ set. And then obviously then they brought out a surprise, which I didn't expect. They brought out the legends of Detroit hip hop to celebrate the 50th. So there were a lot of MCs, and I don't know a lot of the Detroit MCs that are kind of below a certain area or a certain level of notoriety. I'm not talking about talent, I'm talking about notoriety. So we got to, and there were some great spitting MCs. And I actually got to go back and just look at the history. But they kind of talked about it in like a hierarchy of notoriety. And some of the guys, unfortunately, we did not see them. So if you know Detroit MCs, Eminem is the top of the food chain. We did not get Eminem. Funny thing is, M was actually across the street at Ford Field with Ed Sheeran. And he came out and did Lose Yourself. I don't know if he did anything else. Eminem, I personally will tell you, you're at the wrong venue. You would have turned up a whole new level. Hip hop was in the building and you chose Ed Sheeran. I'm sure it was mad ducats. It is what it is. That's how your choice. You got to run a business. But we would have loved to have you at the Hip Hop 50 show because you helped to elevate what Detroit hip hop is all about through film, through your personality, through telling your stories, and obviously you being an incredible MC. So we had the legends of hip hop. We did not get Black Milk. We did not get Royce the 5'9". We did not get Elzai. We did not get Slum Village. We did not get Big Sean, but we got a lot of the other locals, and it was mad cool. It really set the stage. EPMD came out. They were the first group. And it felt early, but they brought the energy. Eric has had some very challenging times with the death of his mom. Rest in peace to Eric and Kim's mom. But I'm going to tell you, of all of the MCs, Eric Sermon, it was like the ultimate professional. I saw things in Eric Sermon that I did not think I would ever see. The charisma, the energy, the engagement with the crowd, the delivery. Eric Sermon, for me personally, as a single MC, was number one or number two favorite MCs of the whole show. I wouldn't knock Parrish, and I think the combination and the synergy between the two was amazing. And they've gone obviously through some things and broken up, and we got think of the albums they have. And I got actually one in behind me. If you're looking top, yeah, right above my head now, if you're watching on YouTube, Strictly Business, which is their first album. Then we got Unfinished Business. Then we got Business as Usual, Business Never Personal, which is probably their most decorated album. Then they broke up. Hit Squad became a thing, but then also Def Squad, which is the hat that I'm wearing with Keith Murray and Redman. They became a squad on their own. We fast forward to like 97, 98. I was euphoric when we got back in business. And then I think the last one we got was Out of Business, and that was the last album they did. They've done solo stuff, music is one of the biggest songs that either artist has done combined or whatever. But they got into, You Got to Chill. We got into Rampage. But I obviously the highlight for me is So What You're Saying. It is my favorite hip hop song ever. It makes me the happiest. I'm the most engaged. I literally tried to mimic Eric and Parrish's delivery and flow when I rhyme it in the car. So that was an absolute highlight to see that. And I've seen them before. In Toronto, there was a bottle incident with DJ Scratch, and because artists got canceled and did not make it across the border, someone got mad and threw something, and it really cut the show short in Toronto. Way back, this is pre 2008, and ultimately the show got cut short. DJ Scratch didn't want to perform. They still went out, did some songs. So the level of professional to them, is top notch. But seeing So What You're Saying after everything we've had with COVID, and Eric lost his parents, or lost his mom. I lost both my parents in 2020. So to see that song, to see your favorite song performed, and you're like right there, was literally the highlight of the show for me. So absolutely amazing. Thank you, EPMD. We then move on to Big Daddy Kane, and Big Daddy Kane, flow, charisma. He had like the top hat on at one point. They put the jacket on his shoulders. The style, the grip, it was unbelievable. And we got the joints. We got Raw. We got Ain't No Half Stepping. Kane was absolutely incredible. And I was so happy to see, because Kane, me personally, I went a long time without seeing Kane. I only saw Kane for the first time in the last 10 years. And I've been going to shows. I've been going to shows now. This is my 30th year in going to concerts. And I only saw Big Daddy Kane like 10 years ago. To see him again live, to do his best, to be close was amazing. Then we go to Krs-One. So we're off to already an amazing start. And I don't even know how they decided who goes first. If I would have changed the order, probably would have put Krs-One at the beginning to give us the energy. And then I probably would have gone Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh. Then I would have put Kane, EPMD, and probably still finished with Rakim. But it's how it goes. They had their order. I don't know how it is. I know these all guys have an ego because they think they're the best, because essentially they all are. Take your pick in terms of your flavor. So we got Kane. Then we move into Krs-One. Krs-One came out with an incredible level. He came out, turn me up, turn me up, turn me up. And he got into it. Krs-One, like, was the definition of an MC, which is to move the crowd. It was coined the phrase by God MC Rakim. And he got into all of his hits. He got into, I wish there was Rappers in Danger. The set wasn't long enough to get into all that. Well, we got Return of the Boom Bap. We got The Bridge Is Over. So we got the joints from Krs-One. It was an absolute energy fest that we have. But the drawback is that when Krs-One got the mics to turn up, something went wrong with the mics for a good portion of the show. So the next ones, so we've had EPMD, Kane, Krs-One is then Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. And I think Slick Rick got Krs-One's mic, or a messed up mic, because of it being turned up, because of all the sound quality of all the MCs. And maybe it's just because he just raps a little quieter. Dougie Fresh sounded amazing, but Slick Rick did not sound good. He did his songs. He did Lottie Dottie. He did Mona Lisa, which was all great, but he just didn't sound as good. He was still great. It was a rarity to ever see Slick. That's like in 30 years. It's the first time I've ever been able to see Slick Rick or seen him on a bill, because I think with his record, it doesn't travel to Canada. So he was the first time I had to go to the US to see him. Dougie Fresh was probably the biggest surprise. He obviously did, the show with Slick Rick, but his energy And then he did his beatboxing. Um, and it was really amazing to see how he sounded. And I'm going to tell you, Dougie Fresh uh, doesn't look like he's aged in 30 plus years. Um, so pretty amazing to see uh, what he looks like. He looks so young. He brought out Vicious, which is like a Jamaican dancehall artist, and they did Freaks, and they both sounded great together, and it was great. And then Dougie Fresh wrapped up with doing a beatbox and voice control and how long he can beatbox. Like he is the GOAT beatboxer. We've seen some amazing ones. We've seen Razel, we've seen Fat Boys, we've seen Bismarcky. He is the GOAT beatboxer in my eyes. And then we get to the finish line, and we got the God MC. And I know I've said some people don't even like the term, but Rakim Allah, stage presence, like there's like an aura, like he looks like he came from another planet, or he was the king of an entire continent, and he shows up, and the way he walks, the way he moves, his style, and we got it. Like we got Don't Sweat the Techniques, we got Paid in Full, we got I Ain't No Joke. Now I still would have loved to hear him do some of the songs from the 18th letter. And I think there's some legality piece because it's not even really available in Apple Music. Um, but like the song New York is one of my favorite Rakim songs uh ever. So it's one of those, and then we go through the set, and I think maybe my biggest disappointment of all the songs, Know the Ledge was should have been a song that was done. And maybe I'm in a time warp or I do not remember. I had just too much energy. I don't think he did it. And I don't know how one of his biggest and best songs he did, but I can't complain. Rakim was absolutely incredible. He did his thing. And yeah, it was a show of the ages. People were tired. I think that was a factor with Rakim in terms of we did a little ranking on the side here of how do you feel about the performances? And it was not the MC particular, it was the performances. So I think Rakim ranked a lower for some because people have just had run out of energy. So ultimately, an amazing show. I will be reflecting on this show for some time, and it is the gold standard. For me, it's a top three show. So that I've ever seen. Definitely, yes, I would say top three. If we make a top five, really quick, I'm still going to go '08, Rock the Bells. This is two. Um, I would say the two times I've seen Tribe, three, I've seen them three, but the two other times. So there was a Tribe Called Quest show at Government that I took in, I want to say in like 2012, or maybe it was earlier than that, before Fife got sick and ultimately passed. In the conversation is my first show, which was De La and De La and Tribe. That's the very first show when I saw in spring. It was like April of 1994, after I finished first year university. And number five would be Nas in MSG King's Disease trilogy. So he did King's Disease 1, 2, 3. Then he took a break. He came out and he did the hits. We had AZ, we had Mary J. Blige, we had even the joint that he's got with his producer of King Disease 1, 2, 3, Hit Boy come out. So those would be the top five concerts I've ever seen. There's a lot of other ones that are in there, including Souls of Mischief this year. I think of the DIT show. I think of the boot camp show that I've seen in previous years. But that would be my top five right now. Easily could change. There's more shows coming this year, but that's where we're at. So if I were to rank it, and I'll kind of share the rankings of some of my friends, I ranked them Krs-One number one, Rakim number two, and really Rakim and EPMD are so close. I easily could say, and maybe I'm just going to say it, Rakim is 3 and EPMD is 2. Then I would go number 4 is Kane, and he's like in the top 4. And then Dougie Fresh, unfortunately, because he just doesn't rap enough. Stage presence and all the things are good, but he just doesn't rap enough for me to give him anything higher than 5. And Slick Rick because of tough sound and probably my least favorite. So I guess I did say it's not favorites. It is actually going to be kind of favorite, but I think just his delivery and his energy was far less than some of the other guys. So that's the order. So I think the overall ranking amongst all of my friends, KRS-One is 1. EPMD and Rakim are tied at 2, both at 12 if I do the ranking. Kane is, or sorry, a 3-way tie at 2. Rakim, Dougie Fresh, and EPMD. Some people really love Dougie Fresh. Kane is then next on the list. And who am I missing? Oh, yeah, Slick Rick is brings up the rear. So yeah, so just to review it again, KRS-One is 1, Rakim, Dougie Fresh, EPMD are 2. Then we get to Kane at 5, which feels a little disrespectful because he was really good, but wavering opinions is what happens when you have wavering opinions. And then Slick Rick was unanimously last. Now, one of the other people that joined us, Renee, she didn't get a chance to put her, and I think she would have changed the rankings a little bit because she loves Slick Rick, so Slick Rick would not have been last. So this would have wavered, but that's how it is. So, my brother, he had KRS-One, Kane, Dougie Fresh, so he's here, got him at 3. Rakim at 4. Hey, Rakim at 2. EPMD at 5. I had EPMD at 3, so I'm not sure where he maybe just didn't have the energy. Slick Rick last. His girlfriend Tani, what up, Tani? She had EPMD as 1, and I love that. KRS-One 2, Dougie Fresh 3, Kane 4, Rakim 5. She was out of juice by then, so that's why Rakim gets the slight, and then Slick Rick was rounds up the bottom. My boy Jay has been on the soldier tip with me. If I count him up, Jay has also probably seen 10 shows plus this year. Jay had Jay Goins. He had Dougie Fresh as 1, which is nice. Rakim, Kane, EPMD, and then he didn't like KRS-One. I love KRS-One, and then Slick Rick bringing up the rear. So that is the show. It was pretty amazing to see. And yeah, there's going to be so many great things that still happen with hip hop this year. But that is the show on how it went. Safely back, feeling good, doing all the things. And now let's reflect on some of the shows that I've seen this year. And I'm going to throw in Janet Jackson because that was a great show. So Hip Hop 50, Legends of Hip Hop in Detroit was the #1 show so far this year. King's Disease, 1, 2, 3 in NYC, MSG, Nas, One Night. He's #2. Smith & Wesson and Souls of Mischief, partially because of the experience, but partially because of how great they were on stage, are 3 and 4. Janet Jackson was 5, and interchangeable. No, Janet Jackson is 5. Ghostface is 6. Jizza, which was great, but just a different venue and a slightly different vibe, was 7. Harry Mack was 8. Locks, although they were really good, they're just other people that were better. 9. Jeru, we saw a part of it. 10. And Group Home was terrible, and they were 11. And no disrespect to Group Home, both of them were not there. It was just kind of awkward vibe, but that's the show. That's how it went down. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for connecting. This is my 8 million. I may call it 8 million stories after Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders. And yeah, that album is up there behind me. And we're missing one album on the wall here. We're missing the Love Movement to complete the tribe set. But we got Illmatic, we got Black Star, we got Ready to Die, we got 36 Chambers, we got Cuban Links, we got The Infamous, we got Mad Villain. It's like the album gallery wall, all gallery wall. I love the wall. It's incredible. We got the Killer tapes over there for those that are listening. Say, hey, but we're not going to talk about my house no more. So thank you so much. Shout out Catherine for the decoration extraordinaire that is also my wife. That show was the show of all shows that I've seen so far in 2020. 8 million stories about how it happened. I didn't see EPMD up close and personal. I didn't meet Eric Stern, but everything else kind of worked out. I was there. I had my energy. I was engaged, locked in, and what a show it was. For those that love hip hop and love this era, the 80s / early 90s of hip hop, for you not to be there, I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you. You missed an experience. Me personally, experience of a lifetime. Like, this is in one of the best things I've ever experienced. And you can call it recent, call what you want. I don't care. But for me, this is one of the best experiences I've ever had in my whole life. And I'm so glad that I got a chance to take it in. This is 50 years of hip hop. Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. Thank you all for listening. I just can't get over it. I saw in one show Krs-One, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, and the legendary duo EPMD. What a time to be alive. Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life, all. Thank you for listening. Peace.